Hi guys, today we start the news with Jerusalem's Holy Sepulchre shut in protest against Israeli policy. In a rare move, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem has been indefinitely shut in protest against what church leaders say is discriminatory Israeli policy aimed at weakening Christian presence in the Holy City. In a statement released on Sunday, church leaders said Israel was violating the status quo at the site, which is one of the holiest in Christianity, at an unprecedented level. The church is believed by many Christians to be the site of Jesus' crucifixion and burial and is a major pilgrimage site. Referring to a bill recently introduced in Israel's parliament that would allow the Israeli state to take over church properties leased to private companies, they said the systematic campaign of abuse against churches and Christians reaches now its peak as a discriminatory and racist bill that targets solely the properties of the Christian community. The statement, signed by Roman Catholic, Armenian, and Greek Orthodox church leaders, also condemned plans by the Israeli government to begin imposing taxes on church properties. These actions breach existing agreements and international obligations which guarantee the rights and privileges of the churches, in what seems as an attempt to weaken the Christian presence in Jerusalem. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is located in occupied East Jerusalem's Old City. In response to the decision, the Palestinian chief negotiator said the move should be a reminder of the need to end the Israeli occupation. And obviously, I think this news is very important because the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is one of the most significant sites in Christianity, and it appears it's closed, and that gives me a direct correlation to the daily sacrifices being taken away, which Daniel speaks about in the Bible. And obviously, from that time to the abomination of desolation, there is 1,290 days. We don't know if that's a 1,290 days exact count or if it's a representation of something else. Also, not sure if the this abomination of desolation, the daily sacrifices being taken away, is in reference to something that happened in the past or is something that happens in the future. But the Bible says that Daniel was told to seal up the words until the time of the end. People shall run to and fro with knowledge, and knowledge shall increase. And that appears to be what's happening now. A lot of people are running back and forth, and the information that's being put online has tripled, quadrupled in the last couple of months. I think what we're looking at here is a sign that we need to keep our eyes on, because if this is the, taking away the daily sacrifice, then there is obvious reference to that in the Bible. The UK is about to be hit by a storm, or what you could call a storm, but they're calling it the UK weather to turn cold as beast from the east brings snow to London. Now, obviously, there's reference to the beast coming from the east in terms of Magog and Magog and all that kind of stuff in the Bible as well. So some parts of the UK are set to feel colder than the Arctic Circle as freezing temperatures continue into the week ahead. Amber warnings of snow have been issued by the Met Office for North East, Central and South Eastern England on Tuesday and Eastern Scotland on Wednesday. It warned of heavy snow showers, with a spokesman adding travel delays on roads are likely, stranding some vehicles and passengers. Some delays and cancellations to rail and air travel are likely. There is a good chance that some rural communities could become cut off. Power cuts are likely, and other services such as mobile phones may be affected. Widespread snow is forecast, and the Met Office has issued a yellow weather warnings for Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. By the middle of the week, the majority of Britain is being warned of the potential for delays on the road, trains and in the air. A less severe yellow warning for snow is in place from Monday to Wednesday. Now, all of that goes into more details about the storm itself, but obviously the main thing I want to point out here is the title of what they're calling it, the beast from the east. And these people are putting these things in our faces. They're mocking us, they're not, they don't care. They don't care. This time now that we're looking at, with all these number references that we've got, 17, 23, I mean, Drake released a music video just on the 16th of February entitled God's Plan. And the first thing you see in the beginning of the video is a house number, 1723. And obviously I pointed out the significance of the number 17 and all the variations of 7. And obviously we all know about the significance of the number 23. And it's just right there in your face. So you've got closing of the church in Jerusalem or in Israel. Then you've got the beast from the east about to hit London. And this is going on while, the Olympics has just come to an end. And, they're saying it really was the peace games But what do we know happens when they're talking about peace and safety? We don't know which group the Bible is referring to when they say they will be speaking of peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them. But this is another reference to peace and safety. The whole conversation in terms of peace and safety over the last couple of months has been in relation to North Korea. And now we're looking at it really was a peace games, just as the Olympics is coming to an end, and it's appears in an iPad Go video that has some references to the Olympics, and whether that is suggesting that something happens at that time, or whether it's uh, a marker on a timeline to indicate that these things are progressing in a linear fashion. I don't know, but at the same time, you got Xi Jinping from China. He's turning into, or he already is, but he's taking more power, and he's turning into um, one of the most serious dictators that we've probably had since Hitler. So Xi Jinping tightens grip on China, had already earned the leader comparisons to Mei Zedong, but they came into even sharper focus after the party paved the way for him to assume the presidency indefinitely. State media said on Sunday that the ruling Communist Party had proposed abolishing rules limiting leaders to 2 5-year terms, a guideline imposed in Mao's wake to avoid a repeat of the chaos triggered by his radical political campaigns. The move could allow the 64-year-old Xi to remain in power for life, ruling as a virtual emperor, and is the latest feather in the cap of communist princeling who is remaking China in his own image. And obviously, we know about the references to Gog and Magog and how the East meets the West, and we know that they're in this scenario of World War III, it's, Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, all on one side, maybe including countries like Venezuela and other little countries like that, versus the other side, which is the USA, the UK, France, Germany, the NATO countries, EU, Israel. It's just all in your face. I wake up this morning about 7 o'clock in the morning, start reading through the reports that I've got and stuff like that, and as soon as I saw that they closed the church and that we've got a storm coming called the Beast from the East, it just started to flow along. So China is demanding that the US stop unilateral sanctions over North Korea. Now, I already reported that the US has, just imposed the strongest sanctions it's ever imposed. That takes the total number of sanctions up to 450. Those sanctions include Taiwanese passport holder as well as a shipping and energy firm in mainland China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore. China demands the US side immediately stops such relevant mistaken actions to avoid harming bilateral cooperation in the relevant area. Now, that's very direct. China has always been like, oh, they would maybe veto a sanction here, or they'd, negotiate for something to be a little bit less stringent. Never have they come out and said, stop, unilaterally, very direct, stop these unilateral sanctions. The sanctions that have been imposed by the UN, China says they're following, although reports suggest that China is violating those sanctions by trading with North Korea at sea, which is why they've now essentially imposed a naval blockade with potentially the US Coast Guard being used to monitor and track ships all the way up into, coming into the Asia area. So there's a lot going on, and it just keeps on coming each day, each day. Now, obviously, we're moving into March. February is coming to an end, though we haven't quite reached the end of it yet. We still got another 2 days to go until February finishes. Significant events have already taken place in February, which have already been pointed out. Now we're moving into March, and as we've constantly been saying, this is a timeline. So February into March, and then into April, and I don't personally see anything in May. Other people may. Sorry for the play on words there, but when we come to March, March has a lot of significance because it's the third month, and obviously there's a lot of reference to the number three across the media, the iPad Go video, even in the Bible, the number three appears multiple times. So it's pretty much the whole month of March is something to watch, but particularly I'm kind of looking for some reason around the beginning of March, looking like the second of March, that would be 23. 3rd of March, 33, 5th of March, 10th, 11th, 15th, and I think that's about it. There may be more, but as I said, the entire month of March being the third month in the calendar year of the Gregorian calendar makes it rather significant. Aside from that, the last thing that I wanted to point out is something that I'm not actually going to read. I'm going to post a link to it in the video. It's basically a kind of like a timeline, a breakdown of how things could escalate in the Middle East, and I found it extremely interesting and informative. It gives a hypothetical scenario, but one that is, kind of likely to take place. Um, and then it gives you like this whole list of things that would happen, including how Israel may get to Iran, going through certain countries like Saudi Arabia, who, even though they wouldn't publicly say that they've allowed Israel to use their airspace, they could, turn their head the other way, and allow Israel to use the Saudi Arabian airspace to get to Iran. At the same time, Iran is kind of pushing through Syria, um, getting closer to the Israeli border, which Israel absolutely doesn't want. Then you've got, Hezbollah and the issues in the Gaza Strip. So things just keep on going, keep on moving at an extremely fast pace. But we're trying our best to keep up with it, and trying to not just keep up with it, but try and get ahead of it. Because if these things are planned, then obviously it's something that is planned. You can get ahead of it, as long as you can find out what their plans are, and when they plan to implement them. So that's the end of my video, guys. I think out of all the things that have been mentioned today, the biggest news, the thing to pay the most attention to, is what's happening in Jerusalem at the moment with the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the place where Christians believe that Jesus was crucified and buried and rose again. So obviously that has a lot of significance. And personally, for me, myself, and maybe for you guys as well, keeping an eye on this beast from the east, bringing snow to London, as London is a potential target of a attack, whether that's like a second 9/11 style attack, or whether that's an attack like a submarine nuclear wars type attack. Either way, we're going to keep our eyes open, keep praying, try and stay close to God as much as possible. You guys have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and God bless.